Hello, this is Renee, and I wanted to do for an intro video. I just wanted to talk about how I got started using tarot, why I started, and the the tools, the decks that I started on. Now, I am not a professional by any means. Before December of 2022, I had never even walked into a metaphysical shop at all. I knew nothing about tarot. I'm very much a beginner. But personally, when I use YouTube, what I really enjoy watching and seeing from other people is a transformation. So, someone who starts practicing something and becomes good at it later on, someone who's out of shape and works towards their goals. So, and you can't have that sort of footage if you don't ever record yourself when you're kind of a rank beginner and at the starting line. So I've been using tarot for about a year now, a little bit off and on, though fairly consistently. I pull, during that time, sometimes I would do more, sometimes I would do less, but I pretty much pulled a card most days. How I got started was in the end of 2022. I really needed to get a gift for my sister-in-law, and I had seen some crystals and things like that at her house. So I figured going into like a crystal metaphysical shop, I'd be able to find something, cute and aesthetic for a gift. And there was one right down the street for me, which nowadays is, that could be a blessing or a curse. And so I headed down, I went in, and everything was shiny and cute. So I definitely found some things for my sister-in-law. But I was also really attracted to their shelves of decks. And I really didn't know anything about tarot at that time. I had my only exposure to it would have been, the what I know now is the classic Rider-Waite-Smith that you would see in movies or would be referenced in pop culture. So the only thing I knew about it was that it was a divinatory tool. And as such, it probably, the cards could be interpreted to reference all areas of life. And that's literally all I knew about it. And at the time when I had gone in to get that gift, for myself personally, I was working on developing like a journaling and meditation, like reflection practice, because I'd recently realized or come to the realization that I had an issue with identifying and addressing feelings. I just kind of suppressed them. So I'd always thought of myself as a person who was calm, cool, collected, but really I was I was just someone who was keeping them under lock and not really actually handling them like you should to for a healthy mind and a healthy body. So I thought to myself, well, why don't I get one of these decks? There's so much beautiful art in here. I was really attracted by all the, you know, the the packaging, the art examples on the boxes, and I thought, well, why don't I just get a deck? I'll pull a card and I'll try and use that for journaling because I'd been having a hard time getting myself to journal regularly. I know now that that's actually a very common use of tarot. Um, but at the time I hadn't been aware. I, I do apologize. I realize that my voice is getting too soft again, but I can hear my neighbors walking around and I'm so nervous about them hearing me. I, I would love to gather more confidence as I go through this process and do more videos, or maybe just get better at judging times when they won't be around. I don't know. But for now, I'm still so nervous about it. So I just want to record, upload a video, get started, see how things work, and hopefully we'll see improvement in my recording skills down the line, yeah? At least that's what I'm hoping. So I went for a deck, and I think I got really lucky because I picked one that's pretty much perfect for beginners, I think. I went with the Modern Witch Tarot, but it still follows the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery and like scenes, like the background, the setting, pretty much exactly. So I think it really put me off to a good start. And so I brought it home. I did exactly what I planned, pulling a card every day. and I loved the results. It just really worked for me. I'm a very visual person, and it absolutely provided the incentive and the motivation to want to do that journaling practice. Or even if I didn't write them down every day, I did catch myself at least, wanting to pull the card, to kind of reflect on what I thought it meant, and then to look at the little the meanings or definitions they gave you in the little guidebook. So I was absolutely thrilled with how that had gone. So one thing that I ran into was that I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to do a little bit more. And the guidebook that they gave was really kind of tiny. It's got hardcover on it, but now I realize that it's what people would call a little white book. And it has, it's not terrible, but it just has little small, short little bits. So, and that is actually how I found or started interacting with tarot content on YouTube, because, I just had this little guidebook, but if I went on YouTube, I could look up videos talking about the meanings of various cards. And one channel I really liked for that was The Brinth, it's spelled Brynth, and I really liked her content. I thought she just had a really welcoming presence, and she just had a bunch of single card analysis videos that they were short, nothing major, just like 3-5 minutes. The concepts that she presented to be very digestible and very much things that I wanted to contemplate or meditate on for the day. So overall, I was extremely thrilled with my pure impulse purchase that day. Now, I had just been doing a single card draw. I didn't think anything about spreads at this point. Again, I just wanted a daily thing to think about. But since I was on YouTube, I was seeing a little bit more ideas of what you could do with decks. And since it was around the new year, people were doing year ahead decks. And I wanted to do one of those. So once I did that, I really enjoyed it. It actually makes me laugh to think back on it. But I absolutely only did a 6-month one, and my thought process was totally like, oh, you know what, I'm really new at this. I don't know if I have the power to do a whole year one. As if doing a 6-month, future telling divination is a more attainable goal or something silly. But that's what I did, and I enjoyed the process, and I liked having a card to think about for a more extended period than just the single day one. So I found myself wanting to leave out my yearly card and also my monthly one, but it got a little cumbersome because I didn't want to keep putting them back in the deck to have a full deck to do my daily draw. So at that point, I was like, I think I should walk down the street and get another deck. And so that is exactly what I did. Okay, so the next deck I bought, a little bit on impulse in terms of which deck I picked, but I did know a few things to look for. Like from watching videos, I knew that I didn't like pip decks where there's just like literally 6 swords on the 6 of swords. I didn't like that. I didn't think I would do very well interpreting that. I wanted something a little bit more organic and more with a scenery. I really liked the scene. So I knew enough to look at the box for this deck to make sure it wasn't a pip deck, but that was pretty much it. Otherwise, I didn't know anything about the author or the artist. I just knew that I liked the art style. And again, I think I got so lucky with this purchase. This was a wonderful beginner deck. So the first thing I noticed was that it was so much easier to shuffle these. Like, I grew up playing cards, and I'm not a pro by any means, but I do enjoy the feeling of shuffling. So, the fact that I couldn't shuffle the Modern Witch Tarot at all was it was a disappointment. it didn't really set me off of tarot though, because it was my first deck, so I thought that's just how they were. But I hadn't realized that the card stock was a lot thicker and that it was a lot stiffer. Uh, you know, so I wasn't able to shuffle it as comfortably. If I split it in two, I could do it. I could probably do hand over hand now, but you know, it's more difficult than something that's closer to playing cards. But I really, really liked this deck, and what made a huge difference was this guidebook. So obviously this has a lot more material than what the little white book did. And it was also nice having the large images, just because you could get more details. So because they're larger than the card itself, you could sometimes notice just more details in general in the art, like little small things or creatures in the background, or whether someone's eyes are open or closed, that sort of thing. And I really liked the way that Sasha Graham wrote about the cards. I thought it was inspirational. It motivated me to act in a lot of ways rather than being so passive, which is one reason I was really using tarot. I, you know, I would like to be someone who gets out there and tries new things and is a little bit more adventurous. And so I liked the way that she phrased things. For example, my yearly card that I had done with this deck was the Nine of Cups. And in the Modern Witch Tarot and also Rider Waite, I believe the Nine of Cups is, a person sitting, they've got a lot of goodies, they're enjoying it, that sort of thing. I really liked the interpretation of this card in particular, just because I spent so much time contemplating it since it was always out. I was always thinking about it as the yearly card. But I really liked that her key phrase was devour it. That, once, if you've got something good, grab a hold of it. If you have an item, or you get, some beautiful clothing, or make use of it. Don't let it sit around and gather dust. If you've made good money, use the money for vacations or experiences. If you have relationships that you really value and that you think are wonderful and good for you, make time to visit that person, to speak with that person, to enjoy those things. So the focus on getting out and, grabbing hold of things and, going for it, I really liked that. And the same thing applies for a variety of cards. I really like her style of writing. So at this point, I was using the Modern Witch Tarot to display like yearly or monthly cards, and I don't really go into it in this video, but I was always also using that one if I wanted to do like a tarot spell, or if I wanted to just meditate and kind of go into a card. I would use that one as well. And this one I was using as like a daily draw card. So I had switched over to using this one and this guidebook as something to study each day. But of course, as that went on and I got more consistent about using it and really enjoyed and was seeing the benefits of doing that, I wanted to do a little bit more with my tarot decks. So, and then I realized, walking down the street to the metaphysical store again, that you could get huge books of spreads. Like I knew, this book had a couple little spreads in it, and I knew just from pop culture the Celtic cross, but beyond that, I didn't really have much concept of what a spread was or what it could do for you. So when I tell you, I was thrilled to find out what like tarot spread books were. I was pumped because remember, I got into tarot for journaling purposes. So when I learned that you could buy just a huge ass book full of literally like journaling prompts, I was pumped. I was pumped because not only like there's 365 in this book. You can go by like the date, or you could just go to the index in the back and pick a topic that you want to do. And so, yeah, a lot of them are just wonderful journaling prompts in terms of, what you want to think about. So maybe one day you could think about procrastinating, and just kind of, use cards to break down your history with that, how you could combat that, um, you know, different ways you can address that problem in yourself. And that's a big problem I have. There's ones about debt. There's ones about, fixing your relationship with family members. There's some inner child work. There's ones about addressing your relationship with food. But I think, and just as importantly, there's uh, also like ridiculous ones. So while there's ones that are more serious, like should I take this job, where it asks you to think about, your what will be fulfilling to you, or what would make you happy, what will suit your finances and your mental health. There's also more fun things like do UFOs exist? What do they want? Where do they come from? I think I saw one about pirates in here the other day. What would your what would your pirate treasure look like? A zombie apocalypse? Are you gonna make it? And while people might laugh about that or be like, "Oh, it's not serious," or vampire immortality. Do I want to live forever? Would I feed on humans? Look, I don't want to talk about serious things every single day. I want to do a little journaling, but I don't want every single day to just be a drag. You know what I mean? I don't want to spend every day thinking about the worst or the best memory from my childhood. I don't want to do heavy topics every day. So having some lighthearted, fun ones that just get your imagination going, or kind of bring you back to being a little kid, where you think about possibilities even if they're not possible. Just kind of really exercising your imagination, and also interacting with your deck in a way that's very different, and in my opinion kind of shows you the deck's personality a little bit. Because I remember doing one. I think one of the questions was like, should I run away and join the circus? And that deck, it was this one. This one's always rude to me. um, it it gave me the Hierophant. It literally said to me, "You're not flexible enough for that." I was like, "Okay, thanks." But that really made me laugh, and I think those sorts of silly spreads let you relax, put a smile on your face, and let you see the humor in using your deck. Let your deck show their personality a little bit. Ask them some off the wall questions. Anyways, where was I going with that? Oh, yes. So, because I wanted to do more of those spreads, it wasn't, I was already using these cards to have like a daily draw. I didn't want to find the daily draw card afterwards and take it back out. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned, but Sasha Graham is the author of this guidebook and also of this book. I think that there's a wide variety of spread books out there. I think all of them are probably great, but I just knew that I'm a big Sasha Graham fangirl now, apparently, after this deck. So if she does a deck or a book, I want it. At this point, I wanted to get another deck so that I could have one for daily draws and one for spreads. Now, I had been consuming more like YouTube content about tarot, and one channel that I really liked was Racine's Almoon 513, and she talks about the Tarot of Vampyres all the time and said it was a really great study deck. So I was like, okay, I will get that deck and use that as my daily draw, and use the Darkwood Tarot as my spread deck, at least for now. So I did go ahead and get this one. The art was not immediately my style. Like, it's not something I would have picked up just for the art. had I not known that the guidebook was so fantastic already from reviews. But I do enjoy it. It kind of makes me think of, I'm in my 30s. So this makes me think of, the 90s, goth, but it's fine. Everyone's beautiful. The colors are beautiful. And I did end up enjoying it anyways. Now, this guidebook is a little bit more, or this deck in general, is a little bit more advanced than I would recommend for a beginner. And, there's still plenty in it that I have not learned, actually, because a lot of the scenes don't follow the Rider-Waite imagery. And as I learned later, it also incorporates parts of the Thoth. But like I said, I'm in it for the journaling. I'm in it for the prompts. I'm in it for the thoughts that it sparks. So I was, regardless of ease of learning or whether I was really, retaining all of the information about specific cards or anything, I didn't really care because I loved reading this book every day. This is a meaty book. Yeah, they would give you, see, they give you some tie-ins to other esoteric systems that I actually really still have not learned, but I'm looking forward to coming back to this deck when I've got a more solid, um, background or knowledge base. And they have a ton of really great keywords and phrases, and then a whole explanation of the card, as well as whatever symbols he chose to use in it. And it's really just wonderful. Every day, even if I pulled, there are some cards that I just kept pulling over and over during the period while I was using this one. And I would always find something new, always something relevant to the day or what was happening or going on, and just wonderful. Really great experience with this deck. So far, I'd been very fortunate with the decks that I had chosen. I always like the imagery in this one. It really makes me think of an old-timey film. I just love it. But yeah, I really grew to love the art in this. It does make me think of the 90s, Buffy. There were a couple of vampire shows that were on during that time. So I really just do think of that. And I actually, the box, I'm not a stickler about the packaging. I tend to tear it up. This is the top from the box. I really like this card. I like her expression. I think it's very Mona Lisa. I won't lie. Maybe that's sacrilege, but I think so. And I liked this rose with thorns, but I liked it so much I took the lid off and I just keep it propped up on my desk. Oops, and I just threw it. That's fine. So yeah. And then I had, a display deck for year and month cards, a daily draw deck, and a deck for using spreads. And at that point, I had become aware that there were things called oracle decks. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I should get one of those. And then I could have a daily oracle as well to go with my daily tarot deck or my daily tarot card. And for that, I picked up the Anatomy of a Witch Oracle. And I was very pleased with this one. I used this as a daily draw oracle for quite a while. So I definitely saw all of these cards a couple times. I really loved the art style. It's like a watercolory, the parchment background. Yeah, so I really enjoyed these cards quite a bit. I thought it added something since it wasn't the same type of cards that I was seeing in the past. And I also liked the guidebook. It's not a huge description, but it's certainly plenty. You would get keywords, thoughts to consider, and also a prescription. And that's what I really like, a little suggestion for what to do for the day, or what to contemplate, that sort of thing. So you know, I really liked this deck and this guidebook. So it was wonderful for pulling a daily oracle. Yeah, just a lovely deck. And then after I had acquired this one, I kind of wanted, you know, sometimes when I was doing those larger spreads, if I would get stuck on a card, you know, you can use another card from the deck that you're using for the spread to clarify, to figure out, um, you know, how to interpret it a little better. But sometimes I wanted to use something from a different deck, but all of my other ones were kind of occupied with daily draws or month year cards. So I was like, okay, I think I'll get another oracle and another tarot deck to use for clarifying purposes, so that I could always have one kind of sitting in the wings, waiting if I needed that. And at this point, I was still feeling I wanted to be fairly minimalist about the decks that I bought. So I was kind of looking for a purpose before I purchased any additional decks. Now my collection is much larger, but I can see why I waited in the beginning. I was a little distrustful of myself. I have in the past had the bad habit of, when I want to procrastinate on something or avoid doing a task that I find unpleasant or that makes me anxious. It could be anything. It could be sending an email. It could be doing my taxes. It could be, you know, an upcoming visit that I'm just stressed about the arrangement for, or like a vacation. Um, that I will suddenly develop an interest in new hobbies, and I will invest a lot of time and energy into those, only to find out once the deadline has passed, once the anxiety inducing event has been finally taken care of, I will find that my motivation and interest in that hobby has waned. And that's just always been very disappointing and disheartening, because I'm a person with low energy and motivation in the first place. And so to think of putting all of that into something that I end up not truly caring about is disappointing, to say the least. So when I started this, I of course thought, hey, there's every possibility that this is the same cycle happening, and I don't want to run into issues with that. But I found that, you know, using tarot helped me avoid doing that, because doing those spreads, doing those daily draws, doing that journaling, it helped me think about the things that were coming up instead of avoiding them. You know, I was thinking about, you know, am I feeling run down this week? You know, maybe it's the things that I'm eating, or my self-care, or, you know, I'm not hydrating enough. Or if, you know, I was feeling anxious and uptight about something, you know, usually something would come up in the cards or the spread, and I would go, oh, you know what, I bet it's this deadline coming up, or this change that I'm expecting and dreading. um, so it was really helping me uncover and address these things before they got to the point of me wasting a lot of time avoiding them. So I eventually did get plenty more decks, which I'm sure I will go over in future videos. But for now, that was my thought process at this point chronologically. I was still thinking of what purpose a deck would have before I acquired it. And so for this point, I wanted to get a clarifying tarot and an oracle I could use for clarifying. But I wanted the tarot to also be like a mini, because I wanted it to serve like either as one I could carry around in my purse and be a little lighter than a regular size one, and also one I could travel with easily. Okay. And the oracle that I ended up going with was the Lantern Oracle. And this one I found so beautiful. Again, this is another one I'd seen good reviews about, so I felt very confident getting it. And you know, it's wonderful. I love the art. Um, I love the guidebook. Really interesting ideas, and you know, just thoughts to chew on for sure. And the cards are quite beautiful. So it's a little, you know, it tends to clump together. It's harder for me to shuffle. But if a deck's really good and special, I don't mind. I'll figure it out, I guess. But yeah, I really love this deck, and it's still a wonderful one. And it's meaty enough that it's good for a daily draw as well. There's things you can consider about the cards and really contemplate. Now, for the tarot, this is probably the only deck, maybe, of maybe one or two that I've purchased that hasn't gone quite as well as I would have hoped. Um, it came with this sort of gilding that where all the cards were stuck together and you have to peel it apart, which can be a little satisfying, I guess, but um, I don't know, they never seem to want to separate. You can probably see some dust on the backs. That's just fanning powder, or embossing powder. Um, I just hoped it would make it easier to shuffle. Well, I think it did a little bit. There's a lot of clumpage. So it's not a bad deck at all. I had actually picked it up since I was used to, what's that site called? Biddy Tarot or something. I think they use the Everyday Tarot images with their card descriptions. And I had referred to that earlier on in my journey. So I thought this would be great, you know, basic imagery that even if I didn't study with it all the time, would be easy to use when I was traveling. But the deck construction made it so difficult to shuffle, for me at least. Someone with more skill probably could. That I just never felt like I was getting a really good shuffle in. And then I'm always doubtful of the results if I can't shuffle it that well. So the imagery is great. And you know, I might just end up putting it in my binder that serves as a study guide where I collect notes that I like about different cards. So you know, I might just paste this on the first page uh, for each card. Use it as like a reference material maybe, because by now I have obtained plenty of tarot decks and have many options, and I don't really need to use one that is uncomfortable to use. That's it. It's just got a little white book. Okay, so like I was saying, after a while, I realized that tarot was going to continue being an interest because it didn't really allow me to fall into the old habit of avoiding problems. It was actually a tool that was helping me do the opposite. And I also realized that, you know, from most different tarot decks and different oracles, you could learn different things. I mean, you know, I especially love guidebooks. So if there's one out there with a great guidebook, well, I'm picking it up because I want that knowledge. I want that experience straight into my head. So, um, you know, I don't really have a limit on how many I might get in the future. So I'll probably mainly be like a deck review or comparison, or just, you know, talking about little things I've learned, not in a teaching sort of way. I don't know that I have anything to teach anyone, just maybe for maybe other people who are learning tarot as well will enjoy seeing someone, you know, take little baby steps towards learning more. Everyone has to start somewhere. I think that's all. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.